Welcome to my channel, Aurora.watercolor. Today I'm going to teach you how to paint a very simple flower composition. We are going to go through the basic techniques on how to make flowers, and we're going to try to make a big piece by the end of this lesson. In terms of materials, what we're going to use today are 100% cotton watercolor papers. I suggest Arches. They are a little bit expensive, but they are definitely the best ones to use. Obviously, I'm using my whole palette at the moment, and I'm going to sort of go on with the flow in terms of what colors I'm going to use. I'm going to have it cleaned before we start. The brushes that I'm going to use are these Da Vinci brushes, and I'm going to stick to number 8, 6 and 7. We will need some water, obviously, and some kitchen paper. Also, I suggest to always have with you a little scrap paper where you can try the colors on, so that you know what the color is going to look like on the paper. Let's get going. Okay, so we're gonna start painting now, making sure we got everything that we need, including kitchen paper, water, the colors, and our 100% cotton paper. We are going to paint the flowers first, and then we are going to try to add the stems later on and fill any blank spaces with leaves or any kind of foliage. So I'm gonna start with my main flower, which is going to be like a pink flower. So I'm going to get some fuchsia from my palette. I'm going to mix it with some dark red. I'm not going to be precise with the name of the colors at this stage, because I'm very happy with you using any color that you think will suit the composition best, which means you don't have to stick to the colors that I'm choosing. I'm going to prepare the yellow for the central part of the flower. Over here, I want it to be slightly orangey, so I'm adding some orange to my cadmium yellow. And I'm going to start. I want the main flower, the biggest flower, to be at the center of my composition. I'm going to go now with the petals, and I'm very happy for it to happen now because I want the petals to slightly mix with the paint in the center of the flower. The way I do it is I go on opposite sides to make sure it stays symmetrical. And there we go. This is my flower, and I'm going to wait for it to dry. So whilst I do that, I'm going to move to the next flower. So I've decided this is the high point of my painting, and all the other flowers will sort of be of different lengths, but heading down towards the edge of my paper. My second flower will be a tulip. I'm going to do it here, and it's going to be of an orangey color. So you can decide whether using a red orange like this, or alternatively make your own orange with red and yellow. Change the amount of yellow you want to use to make it lighter or darker. So I'll show you on here. press and release, press and release to have this sort of leafy effect. I'm gonna get another edge of this orange color where it's darker. That's where I'll do the other side. Press and release, join them together. I'm happy to leave some white spaces in the middle, and I'm gonna go on a more yellowy side of this orange. Try to decide on what side is best. I think I'll stick with this side. Press and release. At the very bottom where all the petals of different colors join, I'm going to drop a little bit of a darker orangey color. Same with the top. You can do this dropping of the color only if the petals are dry. And I'm going to leave this to dry. I'm going to move to the next flower. I'm probably going to go in this direction. I'm going to do a sort of daisy facing down. So I'm going to start with the center of the flower again. And this time I'm going to do the petals in a light blue color. So I'm going to get some blues and make sure I use them very watery. As you can see, I'm doing that technique of press and release with my brush. I'm going to do a sunflower over here. So sunflowers are quite are using quite orangey yellows, but don't worry about the shade. Start light and then you can build up with the darker colors later on once the flower is dry. So I'm gonna start with the center. I'm going to use a brown, but I want the brown to be very dark, so this is too light. So what I do is add some Payne's gray, which is not black, and mix my brown with the Payne's gray till I've got a very dark brown. So I'm gonna start with the center. Remember to alternate your colors, so the yellow must not be too flat. So here I go, a bit of red, orange and yellow all in the same. So every time I'll go back to pick the color, I might choose a different area where to pick the color from. Now the brown is quite strong, so because this is still wet, the two colors will mix together, so try not to touch the center of the flower. Remember that sunflower petals are very, very long and very pointy. It's alright to leave some white spaces on the petals. I'm changing the color here, as you can see I'm going darker. I'm changing the kind of yellow I'm using. If you haven't got different kinds of yellow, you just add a little bit of red, or you make it more watery. or you add a little bit of white. Perfect. I'm letting this flower dry. Now I'm going to move over here. I'm going to do a red flower. I'm just going to use a very simple technique of pressing and releasing. So press and release, and press and release. Let them join over there. As I said, I'm very happy with these empty spaces. That's it. That's all we want. And because I want this specific flower to have a little bit of green at the bottom, I can already prepare the stem. I'm not going to use already green. I'm going to create my green. So I'm going to mix yellow and blue. And I can already leaves. The leaves are going to be done with a press and release technique. I'm going to change the amount of yellow or blue that goes in each leaf, because I don't want them to all have the same shade of green, just to make the painting a little bit more interesting. There we go. I'm gonna go on this side, and I think this side needs to be balanced with some blue because there's a lot of yellow. I'm going to do a very light blue flower. It's hard to find clean spaces on this palette. Over here, I might want it to be even here. I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing. I'm just letting it go. So what I did there is just dropped a little bit of dark blue at the very bottom of the petal, and then I continue with the other half of the petal with dark blue, just to make sure the color is not flat. I'm going to drop some very strong yellow directly from the palette at the beginning of the petal, and I'll let it expand and do its course. I'm going to go purple now. You can create your purple as we saw earlier, or you can use a ready one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mix some ready one with the red I already have. It's creating this sort of burgundy color. If I want it darker, all I do is add a little bit of blue. We add some scrap paper somewhere. You can test the color and see if that's the shade you want. And yes, that's the shade I want. I'm being very, very flexible with the flowers. I'm not trying to be incredibly realistic. And I'm allowing myself to decide halfway through the flower whether I want it to be that shape. And I'm going to drop the color whilst it's still wet now, because that's just how I want it to be. So the trick with this composition is just to alternate the colors. gonna do some blue flowers. Changing my blue. How easy is this flower? Just pressing, releasing. I can already do the stem for this one. I want it to be quite dark. I've actually been sticking to one brush for the moment, and I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm using the smallest one, number 6, out of the ones I presented at the beginning. Make sure the stem reaches the very end of the paper. I'm going to drop some orangey in the center of the flower, opposite. There we go. Now, whilst I wait for these flowers to dry and decide what my next move will be, I'm going to go back on that flower. I'm going to do some decorations. So because it's dry, it's absolutely okay to paint on it with a darker color. So what I'm going to do is just use my burgundy dark red color and create a sort of pattern on the flower. I'm going to use the orange. Careful not to put your hand on the other flowers if they're still wet. That's a mistake I make a lot. And just for fun, I'm going to draw a pattern. I'm going to mix some orange, the pink I already had, just to create a new shade of pinkish orange. And I think I'm gonna go over here. I'm going to make a different kind of flower. Now I find that color very flat, so I'm going to grab more paint, go at the bottom where the petals join, and drop a little bit of color. I think I will already do the stem, and I want the stem to be very light this time, so I go back to my green, add more yellow. I'm going to just do a leaf over here. Press and release. Press and release. If this flower is dry now, I'm going to get light brown, make it a little bit reddish. And I'm going to create the center of the flower. As I said before, it's absolutely okay to leave a little white space. Now I let this dry. Going back to my sunflower. I think I want to add some more plants and leaves, so I'm going to create a green, any sort, lighter or darker, decide how much blue or yellow to put, and I want my plants to come out of the composition like that. Remember to adjust the amount of yellow or blue whilst you paint. I'm going to do the same on that side, but this time the plan will be yellow. I'm going back to that flower, and I'm going to do the same thing and add some dots all around the center. I'm going to carry on with another very light blue plant. So I'm going to use the light blue I already have, and I'm going to water it down. I could potentially add a little bit of white, but be careful because white makes the watercolor go opaque and not transparent anymore, so don't use too much of it. And I want the composition to go here in the middle. And I really like to drop some strong yellow just at the bottom of each petal. Here again, I feel like I'm going to be drawing my stem already. I'm gonna go for a dark orange now. Get the orange I have, mix it with some red. I use a bit of this orange here, and I'm going to draw very lightly a few lines. So what we are practicing now is a technique which is called wet on dry. I want this tulip to be darker, so I'm going to go for that darker orange I created, and I'm going to paint over it. Wet on dry, as you can see, works really well. I'm gonna add some darker color at the very bottom, and maybe at the top, just to make it stand out. I felt like it was getting lost. I'm going back to my fuchsia or violet. Let's play a little bit with the shapes of these flowers. I'm going to do a yellow flower over here. I'm going to do another tulip with this fuchsia orangey color. And I'm gonna go for the same kind of tulip over here. with a darker blue, I'm just going to go over these petals at the back, maybe these parts of the petals at the front, to make it look like they've got a kind of shadow. And a stronger yellow. I'm just gonna make these little dots. I'm gonna start drawing some of the stems. Part of this stem has gone on over this flower. Before it dries, dry your brush and collect the pigment. I'm gonna use that same shadow of green for this tulip over here. And I'm creating another kind of green, a lighter one, and I'm trying to add stems everywhere just by changing the kind of green. Now your role is to fill the gaps basically with anything. it's now to fill any gap, you can literally just draw some leaves here and there. They don't need to be attached to a stem, you're just filling the gaps. And you can use this chance to lighten up any areas that you feel like are a bit too dark. Okay, I think our painting is now done. Please subscribe to my channel. I hope I'll manage to do some more of these paintings now that I'm stuck at home for quarantine. And please tag me when you do one, publish it on your page on Instagram, and tag Aurora.watercolor. I hope you enjoy it. See you next time.